Hey Truth Seekers, for this strategy series video, I'm going to go over my guide and tips for deck building. So the first thing we need to do is we need to establish what the rules for deck building are in Animo. First rule is you can have up to 50 to 60 cards in a deck. All right. Next, you're only allowed to have up to one Truth Seeker card. If you choose not to have a Truth Seeker card, that's one more card you can use for your deck in another place, but it does enable you to start the game with any standard power card of your choice. However, I do recommend you use a Truth Seeker because they provide a lot more bonuses, and in addition, they can't be removed from play by card effects or by costs. So you don't have to worry about losing your Truth Seeker due to something like that. Second off, you are allowed to have up to any number of any kind of power card in your deck. Then you're only allowed to have up to 3 special power cards in your deck. You're only allowed to have up to 3 copies of each card in your deck. And that goes with the same name. So these are stagnetics. I have 2 of one stagnetic and 1 of a different stagnetic. So I can't run 3 of this one and 3 of this one. But across all names, you're only allowed running up to 3 copies. You're only allowed running up to 1 copy of each cine that's in your deck. Okay? So I can't run 2 or 3 hookworms. I can only run 1 hookworm in my deck. You're allowed up to 3 Ultra Animo. And you are only allowed up to 3 Mega Cines. Alright? So those are the basic rules for deck building itself. Now I'm going to go into my ratios for what I think each card type should be in your deck. Okay? Alright, so for a 50 card deck, you should have 1 Truth Seeker, up to 7 power cards. You should have 25 Virtuous Animo. You should have... let me go all the way down here. You should have up to 7 story cards, and you should have up to 3 equipment cards. All right, and then you should be allowed to have up to 7 cines. All right. Now, I'm going to say this first. These are not rules. This is a guideline. This is to help you get used to the idea of deck building, what deck building is, how you can build your deck, how your deck can interact with cards. So that way you just can start building your deck like this, all right? However, for a 60 card deck, 1 Truth Seeker, up to 9 power cards, 30 Virtuous Animo, 8 Cines, 8 story cards, and 4 equipment / hindrance cards. Okay, this is my guideline to get you guys started on that. And you will notice that this deck does not follow these rules. And that's because I'm going to go over something a little bit different. Okay, so what you'll see is for this deck, I have probably about, that's 32, 35 Virtuous Animo, 6 Cines, 6 story cards, 3 equipment cards. I do have actually 9 power cards, and I have 1 Truth Seeker. Okay? So, now I'm going to go over the different roles that different cards have in your deck. So just give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and get this all organized by those roles. All right, so I am back after having organized these cards by their different roles. So obviously, first off, I have my Truth Seeker. My Truth Seeker has the very important role of being an effect in my game that I do want to build my deck around. Because the more often that you can use your Truth Seeker's ability, the more often the Truth Seeker's ability is going to empower you and you're going to benefit from it to essentially gain more cards. There are Truth Seekers that you can build your deck around that are kind of like really passive, and Silas is really close to being passive. Yana is one that's passive, Ellie's one's that's passive, and Calvin's one's that's passive. A lot of the other ones, they're more interactive. Silas is passive in the fact that, you know what, he has an ability that once per turn you're going to return a Faith Power card from your discard pile to your hand, and that sounds really good in a Faith deck where you discard your power cards with your Animo. But what you're going to see is like, hey, the Animo that you activate is basically going to be like a once per turn, I'm discarding this one power card, so next turn I get it back. And if you're not doing that, then you're probably not super active in the game, and you're just kind of sitting there like, I don't need a power card back this turn. This is kind of a bummer. So I put cards in this deck to help me out with that. So to start off with our first roll of the deck, we're going to have our win condition. All right. So the win condition for this deck that I chose is going to be Armorino level 3 from Cross Trainers and Hybrid Ultra from Red Letter Day. So the reason why I chose this is because Armorino level 3 is a fellowship bonus of 15, and Hybrid Ultra is a fellowship bonus of 13. So this one works with Holy Spirit, this one's worth Faith. Combine them together and you get 28, and that's like a third of the points that you need in order to win the game. That's almost half the points you need to win a casual game. And that's only 2 Animo, and they cost 6. So if I activate both these in the same turn, I'm going to use up all the power cards in my power pool. So that's just something to keep in mind. So the win condition is going to be the Animo that you are designing your deck around to see in order to win. All right. Next up, we are going to be talking about the follow-up. So the follow-up are essentially your cleanup Animo. These are your Animo that you're going to be using to gain the points that you need to win after you've already used your win con. So for this deck, I'm going to use Strider and this one copy of Stagnatic, all right? I'm going to use 2 copies of the Strider, okay? Because I can activate them twice per game, that's fine. Similarly, in my win con, I'm going to run 2 Armorino Ultra and 1 Hybrid Ultra, which seems kind of low, all right? Because you really want your win con to be about like 8 to 12 cards, all right? So what you're going to see here is that Armorino's level 3, and I have 2 copies of them, so I'm going to run 2 level 2s and 2 level 1s with this Armorino. And that's actually going to put him at 12 cards. Not 12 cards, 6 cards. And this is going to make my 7th card. So I'm going to be just right underneath there. But then my follow-up Animo, you're going to want to have like 4 to 6 cards to beat your follow-up. And I'm going to have 2 Strider level 2, 2 Strider level 1. Okay? Also, this Strider also has a search ability, which I'll get into later. And this Stagnatic requires me to have 3 power cards. So I actually realized that throughout the course of the game, if I build my deck right, since this is only 2 Animo and this is 1 Animo, I could probably activate all 3 of these in the same turn, as long as I have 1 fasting. So I'll get into this when I get into my power cards, because I built my power cards that I need around this right here, okay? And I can actually use this Strider to go grab this Stagnatic if I need to. So this Stagnatic could be in my deck when I activate these 3, meaning that I have a space for 1 more Animo, or it just gives me the liberty to try to figure out like what I want there. So it could be a support Animo or a different Animo that I can activate instead. All right. So, and this right here is going to give me 46 points in a single turn for a total of 6 power cards if I have the fasting out there. All right. And so this is my win con. And this is my follow-up. Okay. So my follow-up can also function as my win con. Next we're going to talk about is the role of power cards in your deck. So now I mentioned that that's going to be 6 power cards. So with my Truth Seeker providing the 1 faith that I need at least 2 faith to be in my power pool. Hybrid Ultra is going to cost me 1 Holy Spirit and 1 Fasting. Or, because he's universal, it could also be one of these two. Alright? Which that would give me the 5 power cards in my power pool if I didn't have the Fasting. Or, if I do have the Fasting, I can do this. Alright? Now I also need to be able to fuel this Stagnetic, because this Stagnetic has the Preserve Faith ability. It says that if I have up to 3 Faith power cards in my discard pool, I can activate this card without paying its cost. Meaning that as a minimum for this deck, I will need to run at least 8 power cards. 3 to be in my discard pile, 5 to be in my power pool. However, I know that sometimes I'm not going to see this Fasting. So I'm going to have this 1 extra faith in my deck. Just in case I don't see that Fasting, I can put this faith in here instead. And it just means that I won't be able to do the combo with Strider and Hybrid Ultra in the same turn. So, in total, the amount of power cards I have in my deck is going to be 9. Alright. Moving on from that, we're going to go to Power Card Search. Alright. Because you have your win con, and your win con requires you to have power cards activate, and your power cards also enable you to, essentially activate Animo to get your other cards, you're going to want cards that search for power. So, because it goes along with my win con, I'm going to run level 1 Armorino. So level 1 Armorino has the ability that says when this card is played from my hand into my small group, I may search my deck for 1 Faith power card. So this card's going to grab me a Faith power card. In addition, I'm going to run 1 Hoofit Ultra. Hoofit Ultra has the ability that says if this card's in my hand, I may choose to discard. If I do, I can search my deck for up to 2 power cards and add them to my power pool. So, if I see Hoofit first, I can use Hoofit to grab the 2 power cards that I want to see, that I would like to see for the entire game. And throughout the game, I can play the Armorino to go grab me a power card that I can discard and get back with Silas Effect, or discard so I can power up this, get this Stagnetics Preserve Faith to work. But also, you'll notice that when I activate my Armorino has a discard cost, which means that I'm going to need at least 1 Faith power card to play. So I can use either Silas to grab that back, so I can have that in my power pool, or I can use this Armorino when I play him, before I grow into level 3, to grab a power card to play in my power pool. Comes in very handy. Okay? And then on top of that, I want to have the ability to search for power cards with my Holy Spirit. And so I'm going to listen to the Hybrid Ultra in my deck and run regular Hybrid. So this Hybrid level 1 does not grab me power cards. However, when he grows in a Hybrid level 2, he does grab me power cards, which is very helpful because it's when he's grown, not when he's activated. So a lot of Animo have actions that grab power cards. Hybrid grabs me power cards when he's grown, similar to Flaming Grow level 2 for love. So I'm going to grow this guy and grab a standard power card. Now because he can, these guys only grab Faith, so I need to have the ability to grab my Holy Spirit power cards, which is why Hybrid's in here. But Hybrid isn't only limited to grabbing Holy Spirit power cards, he can also grab my Faith power cards if I already have my Holy Spirit power cards. So that's pretty important too. Okay? And so those are the cards that I use for my power card search, which is a total of 7, which you want to run about 4 to 6 cards in your deck dedicated to power card search. Unfortunately, these cards don't actually grab me power cards, So it's really like I'm running 5 cards that run power cards, and these are just required for 2 of them. Alrighty. Next up, we have cards that search for Animo. This is going to let us get involved into our story cards and our equipment cards to start off with. Okay. So, this Bible study, Holy Spirit, lets me search my deck for any one Holy Spirit Animo, reveal it, put it in my hand, shuffle my deck afterwards. Paul's Chains, I can equip it to an Animo to discard it at any time during the schedule phase, but I can't activate that Animo that's equipped to. In exchange, once per turn, I get to search my deck for a for any up to 2 level 1 Animo and place them directly in my small group. If I don't have the space in my small group to do that, I can't use that card. Scarlet Cord is I can attach to an Animo and then discard Scarlet Cord to return that Animo to my hand, or I can discard the Animo along with Scarlet Cord and search my deck for an Animo with virtue points equal to or less than the Animo discarded. So these help me search and get rid of cards in my small group. Getting rid of cards in your small group is sometimes essential because sometimes you don't want to activate that Animo and you have a better Animo in hand to activate. Also, Scarlet Cord helps me combo with another card in this deck, which is Gut Piece. So Gut Piece level 1 is an Animo that says when this card is played from your hand to your small group, you search your deck for any one Faith or Hope Animo and shuffle your deck afterwards. So my goal is to play this card, go grab a Faith Animo, then attach Scarlet Cord, discard Scarlet Cord, return Gut Piece to my hand, then play Gut Piece to go search for another Faith Animo. It's a really very strong combination. Okay. Next up, continuing my hybrid line, I have 2 hybrid level 3s. Okay. Anyways, hybrid level 3 has the action that says search your deck for up to 2 virtuous Animo that are either level 2 or level 3. And since our Marino is a level 3, meaning that I need a level 2 in order to play him, or Strider over here, who's a level 2, this empowers me to go basically search my deck for the cards I need for my win condition, which is really important. My last search card that I run is Flow Ultra. Flow Ultra is essentially the one card that should be in every single deck. You can run up to 3 copies of this card, but it excludes you from running any of the Ultras. And you can see that I'm already using 1 Ultra search for power cards, and 1 is my win condition. So this Flow Ultra takes up my last Ultra spot and has a swap ability that says, I may discard this card from my small group, and if I do, search my deck for up to 3 Animo, reveal them, and place them in my hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So this is extremely strong. Because it can grab any 3 Animo, which includes Cinnies. It doesn't restrict you on level, so you can essentially use this card to go grab what you need. If you combine this with Paul's Chains, this is getting you 2 level 1s and any of your 3 Animo. So what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to see getting 5 cards in a single turn. All right, and as you can see, this makes it so that I have a total of 10 cards that search for Animo. In your deck, you want anywhere from 4 to 6 cards to search for Animo. Obviously, I have 10 because they also serve other purposes. Like this is a 2 for 10, so it can help me with my win condition and help me follow up. But everything else is about 8 cards, and this card's also in the deck because I can grow it and use it for draw cards, which is my next theme that I'm going to be going with to show you the roles of the deck. All right, next up, we have Draw Power. All right. Which this could be kind of confusing because there's already a card type in this game called Power. But Draw Power are just cards that draw you cards. Okay? Start with, we have Servitude. Servitude says once per turn you can draw a card for any Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit Animo in your small group. So, remember how I said that my combination can let me have Armory level 3, Hybrid, and Strider? And I can use Strider and grab my Stagnex so I don't have to have him in play. I can have Servitude in play and just let him sit there, which is extremely beneficial. Okay. Then I have 2 of this Stagnetic. All right. So this Stagnetic has an ability that says once per turn, As long as this card's in your small group, you may choose to discard up to 3 cards from your hand. If you do, draw 1 card from your hand for each card that is discarded in this manner. So, essentially, the reason why I have him in here is because he costs 2, but only 1 to discard, so you can use him to Silas to kind of like fill in that space and help you gain points while you're trying to set up. However, sometimes you have all the power cards that you need, but you can still recycle one, and then it's just going to sit in your hand and you're just going to discard it anyhow. This Stagnetic gives you a reason to discard it and benefit from it. So this Stagnetic provides greater value to Silas than your WinCon Stagnetic over here. All right. So that's why we're in 2 of him and only 1 of the other one. And between these 3 cards, these are the 3 cards I kind of just want to sit and play. The next draw card I have is my Strider level 1, who has a swap ability, which is conflicting because I already have 1 swap character in here, and you'll see I'll have another swap character later. Meaning that because swap is a once per turn effect across all cards that have the ability or action of swap, Strider, and Flow Ultra and my True Blue that I'll show you later, I have to choose which swap I want to use. Mostly Strider's in here because he's the level 1 for Strider level 2. Okay? So this Strider level 2, who also searches for Animo, has a level 1 that can let me draw cards. So what I do is with him is if he's in my small group and I have in my small group's full and I have another level 1 Animo in my hand, I can choose to swap it with this level 1 that's in play, and if I do, I get to draw 2 cards. So now I have a different level 1 in play, and he's also part of my win condition, or part of my follow-up to my win condition. So I'm going to say that he's pretty good, and he has a dual function in his deck to grow into my level 2 for my win condition, or he can just help me draw cards if I haven't seen Flow Ultra or my True Blue. Next up, my Gut Piece level 1 grows in Gut Piece level 2. Okay? Gut Piece level 2 has the ability, since when this card is played from your hand to grow Gut Piece level 1, reshuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6 cards. This Gut Piece level 2 probably isn't necessary because I already have a lot of ways of drawing cards. However, he is a 2 for 8, which is really good value. And he allows me to gain extra points while I'm setting up, and he helps me draw cards. Like, he can basically draw me a whole nother hand that's almost like taking another turn without the additional score phase. So that's pretty good value. So I can use Gut Piece level 1 to go grab a Faith Animo that I need, and I can grow him into Gut Piece level 2 and shuffle my hand in my deck after I played or used that Faith Animo I wanted to. Next up, I have a card that has a dual function, which is Trusty level 1. Trusty level 1 can be used to defeat a Scawfish, which is easily one of the cards that can hinder this deck. But he is used to grow into Trusty level 2. I also chose to use this one because he has a universal cost, so I can use a Holy Spirit power card to pay for him in case I need to activate him. And this Trusty level 2, he has the ability that says I may choose to discard this card from my small group, including the previous growth stage attached and any cards attached. If I do, I can draw 4 cards. So this helps me with draw power. But he has a dual function because he's a 2 for 8, which you only have to discard 1. But he has a fellowship bonus for 12. So sometimes what I end up seeing myself doing is I can have the hybrid out there, Ultra or hybrid, and my Gut Piece, and I can activate this Trusty level 2 instead of my Armorino level 3. So that's very helpful as well. Okay? But most likely I'm just going to use him to draw 4 cards. He's there in case I need to use him to get points, because, getting 28 points is the goal. Because I can use hybrid, and actually that'd be 26 points. But if I use the 12, it ends up being 30 points actually, which is actually pretty good. But anyways, out of all the cards that I need to draw with, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you'll notice that some of these cards help me set up in other ways as well, or help me clean up. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have 11 cards for draw power. Okay, next up is recycle power. So recycle power, this card already recycles power cards, but sometimes you need to be able to recycle your other cards too. So we have 2 Hoofits. Hoofit can be activated as a 2 for 7, which is pretty good value for a level 1, but also has the ability says, if this card's in your hand, you may choose a discard. If you do, you can shuffle any 3 cards from your discard pile back in your deck. And typically, I like to shuffle Hoofit back since he's already in my discard pile when I discard him, along with 2 other cards that I want. So that way, I'm always going to be able to have the Hoofit to use later to shuffle more cards back. Then, because I still need my level 2 for my Armorino, level 3. So my Armorino level 2 has the ability, says when this card is played to grow an Armorino level 1, you may search your discard pile for 1 card and place it in your hand. You'll notice that with a lot of other Animo growth lines, you'll have an Animo that does nothing, which is traditionally what the level 2 did, because the level 1 from Cross Trainers was your card that you used to recycle back your power card. So it's almost like between Silas and him, you were getting back 2 power cards each turn. However, this card just lets you grab any card from your discard pile, which is really strong. So I prefer to use him over, say, the 9 for 2 from Cross Trainers, because he didn't do anything else. Next up, I have Treblu. Treblu lets me grab back any level 1, which is extremely helpful, but he excludes Ultra. So I mostly use him to go grab back this Stagnetic after I've used him. Or I'll use him to go grab back my Servitude after I've discarded with Paul's Chains, or I'll use him to go grab back the other Stagnetic so I can draw more cards, or I'll use him to go grab a level 1 so I can grow my level 2s on top of him. There's a lot of options for this Treblu. But he does compete with the space for swap with Flow and the, let me see, where did I put him? And the Strider, because all 3 of these cards have swap. So essentially, you have to choose where you swap at, okay, and how you swap. Most likely, Flow Ultra is going to be your majority of the time you're going to swap, and you're going to see him more often and him less often swapping, okay? So, those are my Animo that swap or have recycle abilities. And then I have the Runaway, and I have Shake and Break. So the Runaway lets me grab any animal from my discard or return my hand, so that can be a Cine or a level 2, a level 3. However, Shake and Break lets me return up to 2 level 1s, excluding Ultras, from my discard pile to my hand. So I can use this one to grab back Ultras. I can only use this one to grab back, say, like my Stagnetic or an Animo I want to grow, or say, like, I discard 2 of my Hoofits, shuffle 6 cards back into my deck that aren't Hoofit. I can use Shake and Break to grab back my 2 Hoofits. So that way I can discard those 2 Hoofits and shuffle both my Hoofits and 4 more cards back in my deck. There's a lot of options with this. Okay? But you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards for recycling. Okay? So with the draw powers, you want 4 to 6 cards for draw power. You'll notice I had way more than that. And with recycling, you want about 2 to 4 cards for recycle. I have way more than that because Faith really focuses on recycling. And this is an added bonus. So basically, I had the option of running a level 2 that had an ability. Otherwise, I'd be running 6 cards that had recycle abilities. All right. Next roll of the deck is Cine's Control and Hindrance cards. So control cards are cards in the game that prevent your opponent from winning. Okay? So I chose Hookworm because a perfectly timed Hookworm could prevent someone from actually playing the game because it adds a universal cost to the cost of all their Animo's activation costs. Sapper King, which can also prevent them from winning the game, which says your opponent may not play any level 1 Animo from their hand turning into their small group next turn. There are cards like Sadie and Paul's Chains that get around this. Venomoth. Venomoth has the ability, says, as long as this Cine is active, your opponent may not, Animo may not be active in the same turn that they were added to or grown in their small group. Okay. So these cards are very hindering. And then I have my 3 megas, because you can run up to 3 megas. I have Venomoth Mega, who's a 13 defense Cine that has the action. Your opponent may not activate any level 1 Animo on the next turn, which could help you win the game. Lorkai Mega, which says, select one Animo in your opponent's small group, flip it over. As long as this Cine is active, that Animo may not be interacted with in any way. And Fearcrow Mega Plus, which has the action that says, your opponent may not play any cards from their hand on their next turn. All these are very powerful effects. Now, I will note, I prefer to run a deck that has 8 Cines in it because I want to be able to see my Cines and hinder my opponent. However, the way this deck is built, it's built more efficient with draw power, with search power, and I sacrificed my Cines for those spots. I could have been running Millstones in this deck if I ran 2 more Cines with abilities. I can cut out certain draw cards, like quite frankly, I don't need the gut pieces. I can cut out 4 gut pieces, and I could run 2 Cines with abilities and 2 Millstones very easily in this deck. However, I wanted this deck to be optimized to play towards winning the game rather than focus on having my opponent not win the game. But you should go ahead and run up to 10 cards in your deck that are control cards. All right. So, lastly, the last role in your deck is protection from Cines. And I am going to start by grabbing my win condition. Armorino level 3. Traditionally, the role for protection from Cine in your deck, Cines, will go to Potpourris, the Love Potpourris from Cross Trainers. It has an ability that says the actions of your opponent's Cines will not affect you. The most powerful, all the megas that are in this game, they have actions. Zapper King is an action. These are the things that most likely will cause you to lose the game. Less likely of these things, but they can make you lose the game. However, if they are played against you, Armorino has the ability that says as long as this card remains in play, that's in your small group or activated, as long as it's in one of those 2 visible areas, your opponent's Cines, actions, and abilities have no effect. So your Cines do not have any actions or abilities while this guy's in play because his Shield of Faith extinguishes it. It's a very strong ability. So you don't need to run Potpourris because you run Armorino level 3 as your win condition. All right. However, there are other ways to get protection from Cines, and that's cards like Beautiful Gate, which I don't have in this deck because it also gets rid of hindrances or negates an ability. But I use this because of Giant Killer. Giant Killer has a 2-fold use. One is search your deck for a Mega Cine, reveal it to your opponent, and that's if they're not already facing a Cine. And you can use this on your first turn to reveal a Cine to them, even if you go first. Strong. Secondly, if you're facing a Mega Cine, you can just, if you're facing against a Mega Cine, you can just return it to the owner's deck and have them shuffle it back into their deck. Pause Maws can be used to essentially prevent your opponent from playing a Cine on you during your next turn. At the beginning of your next turn, you remove Pause Maws and all copies of it from your hand, deck, and discard pile. Because you're only going to be able to play 1 copy per game. So I run 1 copy of each, plus between Armorino, I have everything protected. And you want to run up to 2 to 4 cards to protect you from Cines. Okay? This is all really important. Because if you do not have all of these roles, okay? So say like you don't have a win condition. You're not going to have any way of really playing the game to win. If you don't have a follow-up, you don't have a way of like cleaning up the game. All right? if you don't have the ability to search for your power cards, if you don't have power cards, you're not going to be seeing power cards to be able to activate your Animo in order to win the game. If you don't have recycle power, you're not going to be able to, rejuvenate your deck with the cards that you've already used. If you don't have Animo search, you're not going to be able to find the Animo that you need when you need to. If you don't have draw powers, you're not going to be able to see the other types of cards in your deck other than just Animo. And if you don't have Cinis, you're probably not going to be able to stop your opponent from winning. Okay? So you have all these different roles in your deck, and just to review, you want about 8 to 12 cards to be your win condition. You want about 4 to 6 cards to be your follow-up. Power cards, you want anywhere from 5 to 10 power cards in your deck. And that all depends on what your deck does. Like if you run Link, you can get away with just running 5 standard power cards because you're going to see them every single turn. Okay? Which means it gives you room to run more. But this deck, I need 3 more power cards than I have in play, and plus 1 more to interchange in case I can't see one of my if I can't find my fasting. You're going to need cards to search for your power cards, and you're going to want up to 4 to 6 of those. Search Animo, you're going to want 4 to 6 cards that search for Animo. Draw power, you're going to want 4 to 6 cards for draw power. Recycle, you're going to want 2 to 4 cards for recycling. And sometimes all your recycling for your entire deck is going to be like 2 Hoofits and 2 of the Runaway. And that's pretty basic. Okay? Cinis, you're going to run anywhere from 8 to 10 Cinis in your deck, or control cards. You really want to stop your opponent from always winning. And protection, you're going to want to run 2 to 4 cards for protection against Cinis. Because sometimes all you need is a Potpourri sitting out there the entire game. Or you can just have Armorino and just ruin your opponent's day. Alright. Now, this video has gone on quite a bit, but I do have one more section I do want to cover. Alright? When I play a game in 3 stages. Okay? First stage of the game is the setup. You'll notice you do have a setup phase. I'm not talking about the setup phase. I'm talking about setting up. Setting up is making certain that you get the cards that you need in order to win the game. So you're going to be using your Animo, like in this deck, you're going to be using Hybrid, Armor level 1 to grab the power cards that you need. And you're going to be using cards like Paul's Chains and Flow Ultra to grab the cards that you need to for your win condition and your follow-up. All right, your follow-up is mostly there just to, I'll get to that in a moment. Stage 2 is your combo. Your combo is what is your win condition? What combination of cards are in your deck that's going to help you gain everything that you need in order to gain as many points as possible? And the third stage and final stage is the follow-up stage. This is where you activate your Animo that you just have left over to finish getting the points you need to win. You'll notice the main combo of this deck gives you 46 points in a single turn. You need 77 to win competitively. You need 60 to win casually. So that's a pretty decent chunk of anywhere from 14 to 25 more points that you need in order to close the game. Sorry, that's not 25. That's 14 to 21 more points in order to win the game. And you're going to have to figure ways to get those points. That's why Hybrid's in this deck, because he's a 10 for 2. That is why I can reuse my Stagnetic over and over again. And if need be, I can go bust out the Hoofit Ultra and sacrifice a lot more power cards than what I want to in a single turn. But the options are there. Okay? All right. Here are my final tips. Okay. Your win condition is what combination of cards you are going to activate to gain the most amount of VP. So if you want to build your deck around a better combo than this Armorino and oh, let me see, I just had them. And this Hybrid, you can build combos like the deck that I won the online championship with, which gets me anywhere from 50 to 60 points in a single turn. Go ahead and do that, because that can be your win condition. All right? Uh, Your goal is to choose a win condition that you can build your deck around in a win condition um, to support that win condition. So essentially, you want a win condition that helps supports itself, which is why Strider can grab this guy. That's why these guys have synergy with their fellowship bonuses. All right, because they support one another. All right. As a matter of fact, I can activate these two or these two, and they still have this similar synergy. Okay. Next, the same card that have multiple roles, more than just that single card can fill in the deck is better. As I mentioned before, the hybrid line. Okay, the hybrid line is really good because the hybrid line has multiple roles. It grabs me power cards and it searches for cards. Okay, so the hybrids, they grab me power cards and they search for cards on top of being a 10 for 2 to help me clean up. So this guy helps me up with the follow-up stage of the game. Also helps me up with the setup stage of the game. He has multiple roles, which makes him a good card. And tip number 4, when choosing an Animo to fill the role of searching for power cards, I recommend choosing an Animo that share the same kind of power as your Truth Seeker provides. This way, you will have matching power going towards activating that Animo, so you may be able to enable their actions to get power cards, which is exactly the reason why I chose to show you this deck. All right? This deck is really important to me because this deck shows you the main weakness that Faith has. If Faith is your primary kind of Animo, you don't get the benefit that like Swimmer does for Hope. Swimmer can grab any standard power card when it's activated. Akinleo can grab any of the other 3 kinds other than Love when it's activated. So you use Akinleo when your Truth Seeker is a Love Truth Seeker. You use Swimmer when your Truth Seeker is a Hope Truth Seeker. You use Manti when your Truth Seeker is a Holy Spirit Truth Seeker. Faith has the downside of not being able to grab any power cards outside of Faith. That's also for balancing purposes because Faith is really strong. That's why Mono Faith is very strong by itself because it grabs what it needs in powerful ways. Which is why I chose to run Hybrid, because Hybrid can grab a standard power card of any kind as long as it's grown. It gets around the need of having to be activated. But if you are using Animo that do need to be activated in order to grab power cards, make certain that they match your Truth Seeker. That's why I call your Truth Seeker your primary kind. It's what you're going to base your Animo that search for your Animo. It's what you're going to base your Animo that grab your power cards off of. So, Hybrid helps you get around that. As I mentioned before, Flamingro. You can use Flamingro level 2, the Love Flamingro level 2 from Red Letter Day to go grab love power cards from your deck. The reason why this is important is because you can use it in a similar way that I'm using Hybrid. I'm using Hybrid to grab my Holy Spirit power cards. You can use Flamingro level 2 to grab your love power cards. Most of your Animo that grab power cards need to be activated, which is why I go and I had the 4th tip there. I just built this deck to use Hybrid to defy that rule. Plus, if you're building a deck that uses Holy Spirit as a secondary kind to your Faith, you're going to definitely probably need to use Hybrid because Hybrid is doesn't have to be activated, and Faith has that downside that you can only grab Faith power cards. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking about that, but you need to make certain that you can set up and you're going to be able to do your combo and you're going to be able to clean up afterwards. All right, follow up. In addition, there is another play style because it's not just all about like the main combo of the deck. Sometimes you can just have a consistent deck that consistently get points, and all you're doing is make sure you got the power cards that you can regularly activate all your Animo in a consistent basis, and then you're just going to continue doing that to the end, and your combo is your consistency, which you notice this deck had like a lot of draw power and a lot of search power, which I sacrificed my Cine space for. But I also mentioned to you what I can do to change that. So, Anyways, I hope this strategy series video was very helpful to you and for you to consider how you can build your deck. So in the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Sinnies.